Have you ever wondered what it would actually take to survive the first 24 hours when the dead start walking and civilization collapses faster than your Wi-Fi during a Netflix binge? Sounds like every action hero's wet dream. Zombies are slow, you're smart, how hard could it be? Here's the thing, you're not the protagonist, you don't have plot armor, and that confidence you're feeling right now, that's mistake number one, and it's already killed you 3 times over before you even see your first walker. The reality is brutal and simple. 97% of people don't make it past day 1. Not because they're stupid, not because they're weak, but because they make the same 4 deadly mistakes that turn survival instincts into suicide missions. There's no tutorial, no respawn button, no let me try that again. When the shit hits the fan, you get one shot to not become zombie chow, and most people blow it in the first hour. So let's break down what separates the 3% who see sunrise from the 97% who become breakfast. Because here's what most people don't realize. Surviving a zombie apocalypse isn't about being a badass. It's about not being an idiot. Quick shout out before we get tactical. You're the reason this channel lives to see another dawn. If you want more breakdowns on what not to do when the world ends, tap that button and ring the bell. Quietly though. Alright, so here's the thing. The first 24 hours decide your next 72. Panic takes lives faster than bites. Most people will do exactly the wrong thing, exactly when it matters most, because fear feels like urgency, and urgency feels like action. It's not. In a city, the soundtrack is sirens and screaming. Down on the street, car alarms stutter like heart monitors and glass rains into gutters. We need parameters because every apocalypse is different, and I'm not giving anyone a false sense of security. We're running a rage variant scenario. Think 28 days later, and the 2004 Dawn of the Dead had an angry baby. These are fast movers with single-minded aggression. They are not cunning, but they're relentless and attracted by noise, motion, and light. Transmission is via blood and saliva. A bite to symptoms is minutes, not hours, and turn time varies between 2 and 15 minutes depending on body mass, stress, and luck. The kill mechanism is catastrophic brain trauma. If that squicks you out, consider how much you want to keep breathing. You're in a mid-sized coastal city in a 20-story apartment building. It's late afternoon when the push notifications start stacking like falling dominoes. You have minimal gear, a phone, a deadbolt, a cheap kitchen knife, 3 grocery bags worth of pantry staples, a half-charged power bank, some duct tape because everyone has duct tape, and tap water in the pipes for now. You're either solo or with one other person. You don't get plot armor. You don't get a conveniently placed fire axe. You don't get a friendly ex-Special Forces neighbor. You get the reality of your own hands and whatever's already inside your 4 walls. One more disclaimer. Every building is different. Every city is different. And this isn't legal advice, medical advice, or defeat death advice. It's a survival breakdown honed by too many hours of studying disaster response and zombie media while mainlining black coffee. You will still have to think. And in the first 24 hours, thinking is oxygen. The clock starts when you realize this isn't a prank, a flash mob, or a miscommunication. It's when you glance down at the street and see that the fight is wrong. It's when someone slams into a car and bounces back up with a broken arm like it never happened. It's when the screams don't ebb, they multiply, and they have the raw, tearing edge of animal noise. By minute 10, your building's group chat is a disaster of fire emojis, weird rumors, and one neighbor who's insisting this is all political theater. By minute 20, the highway looks like a parking lot. Horns blare. People abandon vehicles and try to outrun traffic on foot. The infected don't care about lanes. By hour 2, emergency services are triaging, which from your point of view means not coming. Ambulances become vectors when they get swarmed at lights. Police band chatter, if you can hear it, turns from calm codes to clipped swears to silence. By hour 4, the power might flicker, or it might not. Elevators are coin tosses, and later, they're guillotines. Water still runs, but it won't forever. By hour 6, the air smells like smoke and copper. By hour 12, night cloaks everything and your pupils go wide, and sound becomes your enemy and your friend. The first 24 hours are a sorting hat. If you keep your head, you might see sunrise. If you make one of the 4 big mistakes, statistically, the sunrise won't see you. The instinct to leave is primal. Away is safety. Distance is hope. Your brain whispers, beat the rush. Get to the highway. Get out of the city before it's really bad. Sounds reasonable until you step into the mall with everyone else and realize you're now part of a slow-moving buffet line. The obvious solution, escape immediately, is a trap. Highways choke within 30 to 60 minutes in dense areas, sometimes faster if there are early crashes. When traffic stalls, the infected flow through resting metal like water through rocks. Seatbelts, Once a safety device turned into hesitation, and hesitation turns into teeth. Picture yourself idling between a delivery truck and an SUV with a baby seat. You hear shouts. A figure slams into the SUV, spiders the glass and doesn't bleed right. Doors open in a ripple as people decide they can outrun fear. They can't. Someone pulls forward to squeeze a gap and pins a cyclist. A woman drops her phone and it skitters under a tire. You check your mirrors and your rear window fills with a face that isn't right. Your options compress. Do you ram the car ahead and destroy your radiator? Do you get out and try to run? Do you honk for help? Every option adds noise, chaos, and exposure. It's quicksand disguised as decisiveness. Here's what most people don't realize. Staying put in the short term in a structure with doors you can control often buys you more control than throwing yourself into a citywide stampede. The first 3 to 6 hours are a violent sorting of people who act on fear versus people who act on information. If you have no route, no destination, no resupply plan, and you are joining a million other frightened animals funneling into the same asphalt snake, you're not evacuating. You're commuting to your own worst day. The alternative isn't do nothing. It's do something that isn't dumb. You lock your door and you quiet your space. You move heavy furniture near the door without blocking your own egress. You map your building on foot, silently, if it's still safe. You identify the stairwells, the roof access, the maintenance closet, the second exit in the laundry room that no one uses. You scan the street from multiple angles. You listen more than you look. You watch for patterns. Where the infected cluster, where the human traffic tries to funnel, which routes have choke points and blind curves. You make a plan for when to move that isn't now because I'm scared, but later, when traffic is static, when the infected are dispersed, at a time of day that favors my movement and not their concentration. Pre-dawn hours often compress human activity and expand darkness. That can be your window if you earn it. What about people who say, if you leave in the first 5 minutes, you beat the crush? Sure, if you have a vehicle staged nose out, a clear exit, fuel, a pre-planned back route, and you live on the fringe of the city, go. Most people don't have that. They have a quarter tank of gas, a car with a child's soccer ball in the trunk, and a panicked partner yelling over the sound of sirens. Panic is loud. It drowns out reality. And reality is this: the stampede kills. Save the big move for when you've done the reconnaissance that keeps you off the menu. Noise gets you noticed. Light gets you hunted. In normal life, those are annoyances. In the first night of a fast-infected outbreak, they're death. You slam your door while hauling water, and the door frame gives a cracking echo down the hall. Your kitchen smoke alarm chirps because your oil put up a little smoke. Your phone vibrates, pings, and flashes like a tiny lighthouse of bad ideas. You flip on every light in the apartment because darkness feels like helplessness, and you step in front of those huge windows as if you're on stage. Down in the street, shapes turn toward the glow. Sound is their fishing lure. Light is their path. Here's the catch. Apartments act like drums. A drop pot sounds like a cymbal crash to anything keyed to motion and impact. Stairwells amplify footfalls. Car alarms cascade because some genius bleated their key fob in a panic. The infected don't get bored. They shift. They move toward the concussive sounds and then they scan for movement. If you're cooking, your smell carries too, especially if the HVAC is still pushing air. Even talking becomes a variable. Your voice travels through the crack under your door, down the hall, into ears that only need a direction. The fix is boring, methodical, and effective. You go dim. You use the light on your phone at the lowest brightness, with the screen tilted toward your body, and airplane mode on to silence the digital chaos. You block window spill with blankets or whatever black fabric you own, taped at the edges to prevent glow. You don't stand backlit. You don't pace in front of the glass. If you must cook before the power dips, you cook once, fast, low-smell food, and you ventilate quietly. Boil water early in short bursts to refill containers, then stop making steam that advertises you. You silence every chirp, chime, and beep in your home. You set alarms with haptic vibration only. If your fridge beeps when the door's open too long, close it. Keep your movements intentional. Wrap metal on metal contact points with a little fabric or tape so your door chain doesn't click like a metronome of doom. Now here's where things get ugly. Sound discipline isn't just about infected. It's about humans. Noise signals resources. In the first night, an apartment with lights, the sizzle of cooking oil, and the glow of a TV becomes a magnet for desperate people who didn't prepare, who did panic, and who now want what you have. You don't have to be cruel to be quiet. You have to understand that you can't save everyone at once, and your first job is to avoid becoming another person someone else has to save. You don't need military-level stealth. You need restraint. Switch from loud to deliberate. Use stairwells with patience, one step at a time, hugging the inner wall where echoes die faster. Open doors with tension on the handle to prevent slamback. Tape the latch if it's safe to do so to avoid that metallic snap. If you drop something, you freeze, you listen, and you let the building breathe before you move again. You become the opposite of a car alarm. You become uninteresting. Uninteresting people in the first 24 hours live to be interesting later. Let's be real for a minute. The grocery store feels like salvation. Food aisles, bottled water pyramids, first aid kits, the illusion of order and fluorescent lighting. The hospital feels like safety because it's where doctors live. The police station feels like defense because there are guns. These are myths that kill. In the first hours, everyone with the same idea crushes into the same automatic doors. And the moment someone panics, because they will, gravity takes over. Arguments turn into shoves. Shoves turn into fights. Fights turn into open wounds. Open wounds turn into bites in a crowd where screaming masks the bad sounds until it's too late. At grocery stores, supply meets demand plus chaos. People abandon carts, spill liquids on tile, and turn the floor into a skating rink of milk and glass. The automatic doors jam. Displays topple. Someone yells, "They're here!" whether they are or not, and the crush to the back exits begins. Infected don't have to enter through the front. They follow noise around the block and come in through the loading bays. Even if you get what you want, you now have to carry it home through streets that have the attention of everything hungry. You can try to take the car, but the lot is gridlocked with half-parked vehicles and panicked backing. This is the scene where people die because just grabbing a few things turns into a last stand in aisle 7 between cereal and regret. Hospitals? Don't. They are ground zero for bodily fluids. The ambulance bay becomes a slaughterhouse within the first wave. Staff get overwhelmed and then infected, and they are brave to the point of tragic. Police stations aren't better. They get mobbed by citizens demanding limited resources. And guess what happens when everyone realizes there aren't enough guns? Again, noise, crowding, high-value desperation. You don't need to be in any of those funnels. You need to be where nobody else thinks to go. Here's what most people don't realize. Your building has resources. Water sits quietly in your water heater, often 40 to 80 gallons you can drain from the spigot at the bottom with a short hose, or even by carefully using a container and the pressure in the system. Your bathtub is a reservoir if you fill it early. Sinks and toilet tanks. Not the bowl, the tank. Hold potable water if you haven't put tank cleaning tabs in there. The maintenance closet has tools, gloves, plastic sheeting, and often a ladder. The office space on level 2 might have a break room with vending machines, and those machines have more calories than the empty bread aisle you thought you needed. Their glass is safety glass. You quietly tip the machine to assess weight, check the sides, and if you must breach, you do it once, quietly, and you close the blinds first. Urban scavenging works on the rule of less obvious equals more available. Dental clinics carry masks, gloves, saline, gauze, and topical anesthetics. Pet stores carry large jugs of distilled water and vet wraps. Art supply stores carry spirits and nitrile gloves. Hardware sections in big box stores have dust masks, work gloves, rope, and the Holy Trinity: duct tape, plastic sheeting, and utility blades. But don't rush anywhere loud and crowded. The smart move is the silent move. You prioritize what's already within your building or within one block, and you keep your exposure window measured in minutes, not hours. The psychological pull to get stuff is valid. Stuff feels like control, but control isn't a shopping trip. It's a mindset. You don't hoard, you stage, you don't leave hungry, you leave when you can move unseen. You don't grab everything. You get water, a simple carbohydrate, a protein, and something for wounds. Then you go back to dark and quiet and breathe because you're alive and you haven't traded that for a bag of Doritos. Now here's where things get ugly in a different way. You can do everything right tactically and still die because you treat your body like a machine and it isn't. It's meat with opinions. Adrenaline makes you feel invincible. That's a lie with good PR. You sprint up and down stairs, haul furniture alone, hold a door against a pounding fist for a full minute, and then you shake so hard you can't thread a key. You forget to drink water because fear sits on your throat. You haven't peed in hours. Your hands cramp. You make 3 small mistakes in a row, and the 4th one kills you. Dehydration is a quiet killer. A 2% loss of body water can ding your cognition in ways you don't notice until the consequences speed up. Your decision-making drifts. Your fine motor skills wobble. You fumble the latch, you drop the knife, you slip on a stair where sound equals death. Fatigue stacks like Jenga blocks, totally stable until it's not. The temptation to stay awake all night staring out the peephole is understandable. The cost is that an hour before dawn, when you should be at your sharpest to make a move, you have molasses in your head and static in your ears. The fix is ritual. You make the boring choices that keep you alive. You drink water now, not later, even if it means peeing in a bottle instead of opening your door. You eat something small and simple every 4 to 6 hours to smooth your blood sugar so your hands don't tremble. You switch your footwear from cute to quiet and laced, and you look at your socks like they're medical equipment, because blisters become limps and limps become capture. You take a micro nap when the building has a lull. You set a haptic alarm for 20 minutes, and you sleep in a position that lets you wake into movement instead of flailing. Even one 20-minute nap breaks the exhaustion wave enough to keep you from making a lethal mistake. Here's the thing. You are not in a movie. No one is filming your stoic all-nighter against the window while the city burns. The city will still burn if you lie on the floor and close your eyes for 20 minutes. The infection doesn't accelerate because you rested. The infection accelerates because you made a noise, timed your movement badly, and forgot that you're a creature that needs water, food, and a tiny amount of sleep. Pain becomes a teacher if you ignore these basics. And pain lessons in this world are expensive. If you have to boil water, do it early and once, then turn off the noise and the steam. If you have a gas stove, treat it with suspicion. Gas lines in a panicked city are roulette. Carbon monoxide is an invisible idiot maker, and it will kill you in your safe apartment while the infected wait patiently in the hall for a sound you won't be able to make. Crack a window if you must, but better to avoid combustion heat if at all possible. Use water you trapped early. Drain the water heater if you can do so without creating racket. Take care of your hands with gloves when you move furniture. Tape hot spots on your feet. These are not glamorous tasks. These are the grown-up, unsexy decisions that separate survivors from statistics. Short-term survival in this scenario is a game of restraint. If you avoid the 4 mistakes, if you don't stampede into the highway meat grinder, if you don't announce yourself with light and sound, if you don't join the mob at the grocery store, and if you don't burn your body and brain to get that cinematic feeling of fighting the night, you give yourself a fighting chance. Objectively, I'd rate short-term survival at 7 out of 10 if you keep your head. That number drops to 3 out of 10 if you do even 2 of the big 4, and it tanks to 1 out of 10 if you do all of them. The math isn't complicated. Exposure plus chaos plus fatigue equals teeth. Long-term survival in a city with fast movers is grim. There's no sugarcoating it. Infrastructure fails you, not the other way around. Water pressure drops within 12 to 24 hours in many systems without power. The food in fridges spoils. Elevators die and stairs become rivers of risk. The infected don't tire. And while humans will eventually organize, that's cold comfort your first week. Long-term in this specific scenario, I'd give you 3 out of 10 if you stay in the urban core, maybe 5 out of 10 if you can exfiltrate to a low-density perimeter with a small disciplined group. Small matters. Big groups are loud groups, and loud groups bury themselves. The pros in your favor are that the first night is confusing for the infected too. They go to noise and motion and then wander. Darkness hides you better than it hides them because your brain can operate undercover, and theirs just charges what it sees. You have water in your building right now, and you have knowledge other people don't because you paid attention with your ears before you moved your feet. The cons are obvious. Speed monsters who convert victims into vectors in minutes, infrastructure that turns conveniences into traps, and a city tuned like an instrument that plays panic if you brush a string. The practical advice is simple. You stay through the first crush. You earn your exit by mapping your building, staging your gear, and selecting a route that isn't the route everyone else is taking. You time your movement for pre-dawn when human noise dips. You move in soft shoes and layers you can stash. You carry water and calories, not your entire closet. You aim for intermediate goals, not the mythical, safe zone. You switch from sprinting to pacing. You don't chase rumors. You only leave because you have a destination that beats what you're leaving, not because fear told you to start running. If dawn comes and the street looks like a pause instead of a party, that's your window. If the building is compromised, you go. If your floor is quiet and your door is strong, you might buy another day. Remember that every hour you delay exposes you to infrastructure decay and human opportunism, but every hour you rush exposes you to the mob and the hunt. Survival isn't a straight line, it's a waveform. Ride the troughs, not the peaks. All right, your turn. Would you have stayed put for 6 hours or bolted at the first siren? Which of the 4 mistakes do you think would have tempted you the most, and would you have caught yourself before it got you hurt? Give yourself a short-term rating out of 10 in the comments and justify it like we do here. No plot armor, just honest assessment. Long term, where would you go once you make it through the first night? And what's your plan to get there without joining the highway buffet? If you like these deep dives that treat ridiculous scenarios with serious brainpower, let me know. The dark humor, the practical breakdowns, the here's why the obvious solution fails analysis. This channel runs on your feedback. Drop your strategies, argue my ratings, and tell me what city you want me to break down next. And if you want more of this, you know what to do. Subscribe, tap the button, share it with the friend who always says they've got it covered. I appreciate you being here. Stay quiet, stay hydrated, and for the love of all that is unholy, stay off the highway in the first 10 minutes.